Always a delay. Yeah, sweet. All right. Well, welcome to this Friday's edition of Friday Drum Hang. It's kind of an unofficial title. This week, we've got Carson Schaffer and Etoroma Jr. Both guys that I've run into in Edmonton. Carson and I went to school together, and Effa and I taught at Giovanni music together for a year. Didn't really run into each other lots there, but both have moved to the LA area and are and have been involved with CalArts a little bit. So we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in California. Thanks for hanging out, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, no problem.
Mm-hmm. So usually the way I start these things, there's only three of us, but we'll just go, one after the other, and you can kind of just talk about where you started playing drums, how you started playing drums, and kind of however long or short you want to make it, just your kind of story to where you are now. That's cool.
Cool.
Effa, do you want to go first?
Sure. So I guess, I started playing drums. I was like pretty tiny, and my grandpa got me one of those Fisher Price marching drum things. So that's kind of where I got my start. And then I'll kind of dabbled a little bit, played piano a little bit after that, and then started taking drums a bit more seriously leading up to junior high. So I started taking drum lessons for that and doing the percussion thing throughout high school. And then I started studying. I was like kind of like junior high-ish. Started studying with Sandro Dominelli and studying with him for a bunch of years, and then went to McGill and did the jazz degree over there. Came back to Edmonton for a little bit, and then moved out to California to go to CalArts to study with Joe LaBarbera. So yeah, just kind of bounced around a little bit, but yeah, that's pretty much my journey. Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah,
you didn't when was the first time you took lessons? Then when did you start?
I was like 12 or 11 or 12. I started taking lessons.
Cool.
Drum lessons. Yeah.
Right on. And studying with Joe LaBarbera is pretty heavy. So
yeah, it was pretty dope.
Nice. Are you still studying at all, or are you just kind of like working on your own?
Kind of working on my own, and just mostly I've been studying lots of like drum engineering things and music production and mixing kind of stuff, and here and there just checking out different drum technique stuff. But yeah, mostly electronic stuff and recording stuff is what I've been checking out, and watching lots of video series about that by like Aaron Sterling or this drummer Dan Richard Bailey. They have really great videos about recording. So yeah, that's what I've kind of been into now. Kind of transitioned from straight drums to like more electronics and producing, and so I'm doing all of that: recording, producing, drumming. Yeah,
you got to be versatile these days, especially now that we can't go out and play gigs.
Yeah,
right on. Carson.
Yeah, so my first musical experiences were in piano, or voice actually. Voice, when I was in kindergarten, my parents signed me up for voice lessons. And I know I did it. I wasn't super into that, I guess, but I did it for like a few years up until I think grade 4. And then they put me in piano lessons for a year. And I think I got a lot from that, but it wasn't something I necessarily connected with them that much at that time anyways. And so in grade 5 for Christmas, my parents bought me a drum set. And then I think I just had enough like piano training and like, music notation training that I was able to just like kind of learn from books and like play along CDs and stuff. And so that really connected with me at the time. And so I would just play along the CDs. And then I grew up in a small town and Athabasca. And I was going to a church there, and my pastor was also the worship leader. And so we didn't have a drummer, so he heard that I was learning and I was, I could hold the beat. So I started playing the next September, and I got to play every week until I graduated high school. So it was like a really great learning opportunity just to be able to play, and it really encouraged me to just keep practicing. And then what's next? Probably, oh yeah, my parents recognized that I was serious about it. I think in junior high school, I was playing in a few bands, and like my high school didn't have a music program, so we had, or it did, but then it got canceled. I think in like grade 9 or 10 or something. So, but there was Battle of the Bands, and so that was like my world, like practicing for Battle of the Bands,
Nice.
and we would just play like Smoke on the Water and stuff like that. So, but my parents signed me up for drum lessons in St. Albert, and so we drove into St. Albert once a week, and I studied with a guy named Bob Fensky, and he's more so like a classical percussionist, but he was, he knew drums too, and so I started taking like RCM exams, and that was kind of a thing that really kept me motivated to practice, even though there wasn't like music around me at the time. So I did that, and then graduated high school, and I actually did a degree before I went to McEwen. I went to Vanguard College, and I studied theology and music, and that was good. But I always kind of knew that I wanted to study drum set and pursue that afterwards, and so I applied to McEwen, got in, and I was just ready to like really focus on drums, and so I studied with Dan Skaken my first 2 years, and then Brian, and then Sandra for my last year, and then my last year I applied to go to grad school, and so I applied to CalArts, and I got in, and I got to meet Joe LaBarbera, and I got to study with him, and I took some. I've always had an interest in like Afro-Cuban drums and the rhythms and stuff, so I finally got a chance to like study, congas and timbales and Afro-Cuban percussion, which was really cool. And I got to play in like a salsa band at CalArts. So yeah, that was kind of my like formal drum education experience so far. So it's been good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right on. Bit of a journey for both of you guys then.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess my kind of first question then, or topic of discussion, whatever you want to call it. Moving down to CalArts and studying with Joe LaBarbera, both of you have studied with him. I'd be interested to hear what you each studied with him and how that kind of looked in terms of curriculum, if you will, especially seeing as both of you have, what kind of things you focused on with him.
That's a good question. Yeah, he kind of talked about a lot of things, like prior to going to, or I guess like as I was applying to CalArts, I applied to a bunch of schools in New York, specifically to study with different teachers like John Riley, Kenny Washington, and I found that Joe kind of taught the similar things to what they taught, and then also had his own kind of perspective on like rudiments. So he teaches like Wilcoxon. He has his own kind of method or concept for playing the brushes. He used like similar materials to like John Rowley and Alan Dawson to talk about coordination and stuff. So it was like kind of got everything I would have wanted, like if I like kind of a combination of everything. It was like really diverse, some odd time stuff, some polyrhythmic stuff. I did some classical etudes with Joe as well, transcriptions, playing over tunes and soloing. We talked about kind of like free jazz and just playing, just like different approaches of playing really open and broken and kind of obscuring the beat. Yeah, like it was a lot.
I bet. How many years did you study with him for then?
I was with him for 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
That sounds like a lot to smush into 2 years.
It was a lot, and yeah, especially after like finishing undergrad and studying with like I studied with a dude named Chris McCann and Dave Lang in Montreal, and they kind of gave me a whole lot of conceptual stuff and rudimental stuff too. So Joe kind of gave me some more application of like, this is what you should practice to use for your gig, and not just practice weird exercises that are just a weird exercise for the sake of doing a weird exercise.
Interesting.
So, yeah,
that's super important.
Yeah,
super important. I find that I'm in a bit of a roadblock with some of the stuff that I'm working on for that reason. I think is just how to work it into actually something useful. That's great. Carson.
Yeah. So yeah, Effa said it well. Like he does. For me, I think what I was wanting to work on the most was, was having more clarity in, like, for one thing, like in terms of soloing, having more clarity of the form in soloing. And so we worked on playing along to, like, for Big Sid, like transcribing that, playing themes, restating themes, things like that. And one thing that I like, probably one of the most like beneficial or like helpful things, memories from sitting with Joe was like in his little studio there was one drum set here where I would sit and then he would sit across, and then we would trade solos over the form, whether it was 4s or 8s or 16ths or 32, and then or like an odd number of what if it's an odd form song. And that was really cool to see how he would like mark the changes or the rhythms, the shots. And so it just instantly gave you like ideas and like inspiration to play better. That was the thing that was like the most helpful. And then we went into like a deep dive and like brush technique, kind of fixed a few things with my left hand. Like I wasn't getting like a good snap and then I could hear the difference when he would play it and then when I would play it. And it was like, I couldn't figure it out at first. And then, yeah, another thing that was really cool, we did a lot of like polyrhythm stuff, but out of this book called The Odd in You by Ephraim Toro. It's a really, really helpful book. And he kind of showed us a way to like apply it to rhythmic phrases and stuff. That was cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not the first time Ephraim's name has come up on these things. Little George has been, railing about his other book, 2-3 or not 2-3.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, Bill loves. Talks about that dude a lot. Yeah.
Oh my god, so much, and can't find that book anywhere.
Dang.
It's like it doesn't exist anymore.
2-3 or not 2-3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember Bill talking about that. Probably when I first met him, he mentioned Ephraim Toro just like doing all this crazy stuff, and I was like, "Who's this guy?"
Yeah,
that's nuts.
It's it's about, I think, being able to feel the pulse on every part of the beat, or in that kind of thing. I don't know. He talked about Ray Garraway was a big proponent of that whole thing, and
definitely,
I think Bill's a big.
He passed away like 4 or 5 years ago. I remember because I was at McEwen and he studied. I think he studied with Brian.
Yeah.
Back in the day or something.
Must have been 2013, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Something like that. Yeah, I honestly had no idea who he was until until that happened, and then you go and look up a video, and it's just scary playing. Yeah. Well, that's really cool. It sounds like it's studying with Joe's very applicable. It's just applying things to the drum kit instead of concepts, which is great. It's very interesting. You go to do a master's, right? You guys are doing your master's at CalArts, and you'd think, at least in my mind, it would kind of become this kind of cerebral kind of exercise, taking lessons, but it's almost more applicable than some of the stuff that maybe we've studied at McEwen and things like that, patterns, and exercises, and Yeah, not
Yeah,
it's not a shot at McEwen either, but
I've heard it said that like your master's degree is sometimes the most enjoyable, because you're done with all like most of the electives and like the stuff that you have to get, like the English and all that stuff, and then but it's not as truly academic as like your PhD or your your doctoral work or whatever. So you can really just focus on like learning to play better and to at least it was at CalArts. Like I'm grateful I didn't have to do nearly as many like elective classes as some like the undergrads. It was nice. I think I only had to do like 2 in the whole time, like 2 classes that were outside of the music program.
Cool.
And the ones I took was like I took one in like sound design, which is still interesting, And then yeah,
we're gonna get into that too. But before that, I think Bill George says hi.
Oh, awesome.
Hey, Bill.
Hey, how's it going?
It's funny. Cool. Just had a question pop up here. You guys know Paul Bergeron?
Yeah.
From up here,
yeah.
He's asking about the landscape of playing music full time in LA, creative endeavors, studio work, money making gigs. However you'd like to interpret that. What are your experiences with playing in and around LA?
For me, I found there's like people do a little bit of everything. There's like there's a lot of casual gigs that have like rotating cast of people that are just kind of, if you're in town, you get called and you're free, you just do this gig and it's like covers, just playing cover stuff. A lot of people do that. There's a lot of like wedding bands that are kind of set up like a casual sort of, but like they're killing, but like it's like a roster and you just get called and you come and do the gig and play the tunes, and you may have never played with these people before, but it's a wedding. So it's kind of serious, but it's like, but the people are killing, so like it goes fine every time. So yeah, if there's a rotating cast, and they could be on tour with like anybody, Andy Grammer, they could be their own solo artist and they're really big, but they're just free. They could be on like The Voice or The Four or one of those like big TV shows, but they're free, and they'll just do this 2-hour, 3-hour Casio and sing R&B.
Wild.
Yeah, it's wild. But yeah, there's like heavy cats who are doing all the things.
That's crazy, man.
And studio stuff, whatever. It's like everybody's kind of doing a little bit of everything. Teaching, there's like, like I teach at the Musicians Institute, and it's like Richie Garcia, who made the Gahate bracket, and Gordon Campbell, and like all these heavy dudes are just kind of in and around. Rich Redmond teaches there sometimes.
Oh, really?
Like,
I didn't know that.
So yeah, all kinds of cats are just teaching, playing, recording, hosting jam sessions, all the things. Like Chris Johnson, who's I guess he was playing with like Rihanna and Lady Gaga. He had a jam like near my house every week, and it'd just be like, he'd play and then he'd call you up and then you get to play his kit and then just play R&B whatever covers, and it's just like in a corner of this little bar. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
That's so wild.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Spuds, you're right, doing the same thing. He was like hosting a jam, and then when he was on tour, and he was gone. But then like when he'd come back, he'd just host a jam. That's
cool. It's obviously very community minded people. Then
definitely, yeah,
that's really cool. It's not huge egos, or maybe there are. I mean, maybe
might be, yeah.
But, that's great. So it floated away. Carson, what's your experience? I'll think about what I was gonna.
Yeah, sure. There. So I just graduated last May, so I spend most of my time like still going to jam sessions, meeting people, stuff like that before the shutdown. But I played a few gigs, but it's what I've enjoyed the most is just going to jams and like having sort of like a bit of a list of what you want to check out each week. Like on Wednesdays, I usually go to like the Six in Calabasas, which is like kind of a straight ahead jam. And then there's the Falls on Mondays downtown. And then I usually see F at the San Fernando on Tuesday nights. That one's hosted by Zephyr Avalon. And then there was like the Brack Shop Tavern on Thursdays. I think it's not happening anymore, but yeah.
Cool. You guys check out the Baked Potato at all? Is that still a thing?
Yeah, it's a thing. I haven't been there yet, actually.
Yeah, there's lots of crazy musicians. Like Gary Novak plays there sometimes, and like Brack Shop Tavern, the jam that Carson mentioned, Steve Haas, who played with all these crazy musicians, played with Ravi Coltrane on like the Mad Six record, which is like a pretty dope record for modern jazz, at least. It's like heavy cats, just they're in town doing things.
Playing
at venue like the Blue Well. Like I've seen all kinds of crazy musicians playing there, and they're super humble. They're around, just doing their thing. Ran into like Chris Dave, Rob Glasper, all those kind of guys who are just doing the thing. They're come and hang out, and then they'll disappear for a while because they're on tour, and then just go. It's like it's kind of wild, just like running into all these musicians that you're like, oh, you see them on YouTube, and they're just in town, like,
right?
And at jams and stuff. Like there used to be a place called Cafe Cordial, and I I went there for the first time, and all these musicians were just like all the people I watched on YouTube. All these drummers were just there, crazy bass players. I was like, why are you here? This is insane.
They just live there, right?
They live there. That's what they do. They hang. The musicians like to hang. They like to, they're down to kick it and play music together.
Crazy.
Yeah. My housemate, he's a drummer and a pianist also, and he interned at Hans Zimmer's studio for a while, and he said that he ran into Vinny Colaiuta outside of the studio. He was going in to do like a session or something, and so he loves Vinny. So he asked him about his practice, the way he practices, and his concepts and stuff like that, and he was super open to it. So it was really cool. And then he shared it with me. He works on like, if it's like a thing of maintenance, he always includes like 4 measures or like a phrase of whatever the exercise is, and then applying it to music, applying it to like timekeeping and stuff.
But it's all in crazy time signatures and crazy groupings and that's wild.
Yeah. We keep making the joke that we want to try to like hang out at like Trader Joe's and like see if we can run into Vinny again or something.
Why not? And it's funny too, like especially now sending emails to people and getting responses seems to be like there's a greater probability of them getting back to you now because everybody's in the same boat, not quite working as much. And stuff like that. And I sent had a couple of drinks a few weeks ago, sitting upstairs on the couch or whatever, and I had just like, I'm gonna send an email to this guy, send a Facebook message, long thing, questions about playing, and do you want to be on this Friday drum hang thing, and forgot about it. And a couple of weeks later he got back and was like, yeah, that's a lot of questions, can I just be on your thing and we'll just talk about it? And
great.
I'm not gonna say who it is yet, but when he comes on, it's gonna be great. It's
awesome, cool.
But I feel that we kind of put these people up on pedestals and are too afraid to talk to them most of the time. But they're more than happy to chat about stuff when they have the time.
Yeah. And most people, they won't recognize, like general public won't recognize one drummer from another. They're like, if you think of it, they're only really celebrities to like other drummers who see them on YouTube and read about them in the liner notes and stuff,
Totally. Yeah.
A
couple minor exceptions, Anderson .Paak's probably pretty.
Right. Yeah.
Everybody's
pretty famous.
Chasing that guy.
Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, that's great that it seems so welcoming down there, and obviously the caliber of musicianship at these jams has got to be just ridiculous too.
It's pretty insane. Yeah, most jams are pretty insane. There's an odd jam where it's just like it could be like pretty crappy, but I don't know. For the most part, it's pretty high caliber stuff going on.
Cool. Ever you get nervous, get the sweats before you get up on stage at these jams?
Sometimes, yeah. It just depends on what jam you go to. But I usually go to ones that my friends are running, so it's not too stressful. But
Cool.
the first jam I went to, this bass player Hadrian Farode was playing bass, and I was like, oh gosh. So I was like,
first
great.
impression.
Yeah, first impression, just like playing with like a monster bass player. And then after that and surviving that, I'm like, okay, cool. He was nice. I was like, okay, cool. I can hopefully keep on coming to jams and not get chewed out. Like I thought I was just gonna be like horror, just get off stage.
Oh, man. It's funny too. Like, I feel like that's kind of like the climate at a couple of the jams up here. You know, sometimes you get up there and some of the guys are just like not pleasant to play with and be around. But
yeah,
that doesn't happen when you go to play with really, really great musicians. They're also really great people.
yeah,
It's very strange.
yeah.
Some strange jams. Not going to name names up here, but this is great. So kind of touched on a couple of things. I for both you guys and Carson, I'm sorry, I don't remember who it was you were playing for. You went on a short tour of the States last year.
Yeah. It was an artist named Sogand. She was an Iranian R&B, I guess, electronic artist. She lives in Germany.
Okay. Cool. So can you kind of talk a little bit about how you got involved with that? You know, you moved to LA. Then what happened?
That kind of came out of the blue, actually. I mean, so even back in Edmonton, I like my first array of like putting myself out there was I'm just gonna make a Craigslist ad, and so I did that back in Edmonton, and so and that works, sometimes. Usually it's like nothing, but I did the same thing when I was in my first year of CalArts. I was like, I'm just gonna see what's out there, and so most of the time it's just people looking for people to jam with, or rehearse like 3 times a week for this, whatever thing. But then it was I think June 2018, and then I saw this thing where it said, international artists was looking for U.S. musicians for their upcoming tour, and so I was like, okay, I'll put my website, and like I wrote a little blurb, and then I didn't think about it because usually things don't materialize from there. But then I got like an email 2 weeks later saying like, thanks for the response. Are you available for these dates? And it was in like New York and San Diego, San Francisco, and DC and stuff. And I was like, wow, this is cool. And so we rehearsed 2 afternoons in August 2018, and then we played at a thing called Grand Performances downtown. It was in this like open area. It was really cool. And that was my first foray into like playing along to tracks, getting a track rig set up in Ableton and stuff. I was learning Ableton at that point, and so I had to really figure out like what's my workflow for like live. How do I cue things, all that stuff. Right. Dummy tracks. We had a close call in San Francisco. Anyway, yeah.
Cool,
okay.
Man.
Yes.
We're gonna get into that because that's part of the technology thing. We're gonna.
Okay. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll save that for that. But yeah, it was a great experience. We played at Le Poisson Rouge in New York, which was really cool. I'd never been to New York before, so it was just like super cool to just walk around. And I went to a show at Smalls afterwards, and then we got on a plane the next morning and came back to LA. It was cool. She's at the time, well, now I think we were planning to do stuff this past summer, but she ended up having a baby actually. So things are on hold, and then the shutdown happens. So we'll see if it ever picks up again.
That's pretty rare to like throw an ad out.
Yeah. Yeah.
get a reply and land a gig without
Yeah.
auditioning or
That's cool.
yeah, that's wild, man. Congrats on
Yeah,
that.
I was. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
I was as shocked as anyone.
Amazing.
And the band was super chill. The band was super fun. You know, yeah, it was great.
Cool. Right on. I'm gonna throw it to Effa. Talk a little bit about how you ended up with Moonchild, and that seems to be correct me if I'm wrong. That's your kind of main gig.
Yeah, that's definitely main performing touring gig.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had some. I actually met them. I went to one of their shows with a friend of mine, and met them at the show and became friends with them, and then began like realized that we had a ton of mutual friends and became really good friends with the drummer in the band at the who was playing for them at the time, and then at some point they needed a drummer for a tour, and my name got mentioned, and one of the members came to a show I was doing. I was doing like a Jay Dilla tribute with a couple of friends, and they checked me out, and they're like, "Oh yeah, okay, he's holding it down. He's not doing anything." And stuff. And they're like, "Okay, I think you'll work." So
Awesome.
yeah, they took me out on like it was just like a spot day. We did like a showcase, and we flew out to the East Coast. And then after that, they're like, "Cool." It's like, "Yeah, that was fun." I was like, "Okay, cool. Maybe I'll hear from them at some point." And then a couple weeks later, they're like, "Cool. Do you want to go to Japan?" And then after that, it just everything blew up. Like U.S. tour and European tours, and they dropped a couple albums. And
jeez, you caught the wave.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it's been crazy. Yeah, we did like Tiny Desk concert in the fall, and did opening tours for Jill Scott and Kamasi Washington, and yeah, it's been crazy. Yeah, it's been pretty crazy.
Well, congrats to you too. That's you're both doing great stuff down there.
Yeah,
amazing. Represent Alberta.
Yeah.
Okay, so both you guys are using. I'm assuming. Sorry, Effa, you're probably using Ableton with Moonchild.
Yeah, Ableton. Yeah, we've been using Ableton.
So kind of similar kind of vibes for both gigs, but I kind of do want to get into that a little bit. That's kind of a small part of the technology side of things that I did want to talk about. So maybe just kind of talk about your electronic setup live briefly, and then you can talk about your close calls or
for sure.
disasters that happen, whatever. I'm, mainly for people on here. I mean, up here when we talk about electronic rigs for like gigs, especially in the country scene, it's like Ableton interface and then like 8 tracks of support tracks, background vocals, instruments, stuff, and it's like play the tune top to bottom. It's pretty like foolproof, pretty straight up, but you can use it in a lot more kind of powerful ways. So if you wouldn't mind just kind of describing what you use with Moonchild, and I'm Carson, we're going to talk a little bit about Max as well, because I know you're
sure
neck deep in that. But
so yeah, it kind of depends on like if it's like a support gig, then I might just run my stuff off of an SPDSX just to make it really quick, because we usually have to kind of jump on and off a stage. We did a US tour, and I was running Ableton off of was running tracks off of the pad, but then also sending time code to the lighting guy, and then running videos off of Ableton. We're working on transitioning to doing the fully redundant rig, but the US tour, things kind of got crunched together leading up to it, so we didn't fully transition. We tried out doing the thing with everything all stemmed out, didn't quite work out, so we ran stuff off the pad, and then used MIDI to run the lights and video. Cool. It's kind of like a weird hybrid, but yeah, eventually it's probably going to be all Ableton, and I'm hoping to add like some program changes for pad, so I don't have to switch or touch too many things between songs, or even during songs. It'd be cool to just have some changes going on. So yeah, I'd say the playback rig is developing, and probably going to be it's always evolving, and definitely been researching a lot of things, and we have like the mixing engineers are hopefully going to build us some sort of rig that's really portable.
Cool. You do a lot of the like you know, talking about time code for lighting and video and stuff. You do a lot of that or all of that programming yourself?
Yeah, this time around I did. It was like my first time doing it. I didn't do the lighting, but I just made sure the time code got sent to the lighting guy. And I also worked with the guy who did the visuals and just worked with him to make sure everything looked right and started at the right time. Like he made the visuals, I just put it into Ableton and made sure it
Oh,
was
I see.
all cool, and I guess kind of facilitated all the tech stuff that was going on.
Cool. And you run all that off of a MacBook, and it's
Exactly. Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Even
It's
with
cool.
video, it's
Yeah, video is cool. Yeah, video is cool, and the time code sending to the lighting guy worked out fine because he had stuff timed to go with hits in songs. So we had these sticks that would just light up to go with the music. So he'd
nice.
kind of program everything out, and the videos kind of did the same thing. They'd kind of go with the hits in the music and just kind of bloom and just change as different transitions would happen. So like the whole thing, the visuals and the sound was on the last US tour was like pretty incredible.
Very cool. Did you bring that up here when you're in Edmonton? Was that?
No, we didn't. No. So that was like a situation where like, I just ran tracks off with the SPSX and we just kind of played. Yeah.
I didn't get to see it anyways.
Yeah.
Next time. But that's really
are
cool.
Are the time code for like the visuals, is that like pre-recorded along with the MIDI, or is it along with like something that you're triggering, or how does that work?
So the time code
in Ableton?
It was like, so basically it's that just kind of like the weird time code sound that like every like the starting point of every track and every video had a different timing, and then the lighting guy had that. So as soon as I'd hit that track, it would start his sequence or preset for the lighting. So
cool.
Yeah, it wasn't running the whole time. It just be I start this song, it would do the time code thing. So if we rearrange the set, then his lighting preset would match automatically.
Right. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And then the videos were set up in a way that it was just like I was using a Mac's program called Setlist that allowed you to change the order of the songs really easily, so they could all be in arrangement view, so you could see it going across, and if you wanted to put markers for chorus or anything, you could see it going across, and then you could also change the order on the fly really quickly, or and then I could just scroll up and down if something got weird, or if they wanted to skip a song or something, I could just hit it and just kind of change what song's going, or stop something if something started weird, and also stop the video and lighting too, because like it's definitely possible for something like that to happen, like start a song and it's like, oh wait, they're not ready, okay, stop and then restart everything, because there was a lot going on, like the lights, video, and the track going, so to make sure everything ran. And
you had to use Macs to be able to move things around easily. You can't just
exactly, yeah. So it just kind of moved the marker to start the different songs without me having to have like a different like MIDI note for every track. I just could hit play and it plays the one that's in the set list that I have. Yeah. So it simplifies it. So like, if I use someone's, we ended up switching different computers because I used my computer at the beginning of the tour and it was older, so it was having some issues with the video because of the graphics. We used a newer computer, so if I had it like doing, it just kind of simplified everything. I just could load this program and then just hit play, and everything would just go really smoothly, and I wouldn't have to worry, oh, did I change a MIDI note? Did we cut this tune? Do we shorten this tune? Is this a new file that someone sent me? Are all the MIDI notes there?
Less of a headache.
Yeah, super simple. I just like it to be simple because I don't know. I want to focus on drumming and not playback engineering.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that can get you into trouble pretty quick. Very cool. So Carson, then give us an idea of your setup with your artist there.
Okay, well,
her name already.
Sogan. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, well, what happened for me was they sent us all the backing tracks and stuff. So I put them into Ableton and made like dummy tracks before each of them and stuff like that, the different sections of the song and everything. But it was everything went pretty smoothly. There was one like close call on our second show in San Francisco. And so what happened was the front of house engineer for her couldn't make that one. He was on a plane somewhere, and so anyways. And then basically what happened was we made some edits to. She sent me, or her manager sent me, like a new file for one of the songs, and it was without the. It had the backing vocals for like a chorus that she was not going to sing, but like another artist who I guess also produced the track. But what I did was I didn't collect all and save it into the into the patch. And so when we rehearsed, we heard the audio, but it was way far back, and we couldn't. I realized, oh my gosh, I didn't save it into into the file. And so and then we made some edits where we shortened like a section in that file or something. And so this was in sound check when we realized this. And so I was like, quickly, I like opened like Audacity or something, and I just like I found the original file that was in my download folder, put it in Audacity, and like I made sure it lined up with the other file, and then it had the vocals, because otherwise basically there would be like all the verses would be instrumental, and there would be like this weird like voice that was super low in the mix, and you wouldn't know why. So I quickly like just put it together in Audacity, put it into Ableton, make sure it lined up with the click and everything. So it was like super close, but that was during sound check, and I was like in Audacity behind the kit. It was super stressful.
Sweating
yeah,
buckets.
Yeah, but it worked, and it was like everything was fine. It was that show was like the most enjoyable because it was like so cathartic when you finally got to play.
Right. Yeah. That's great. Yeah. I've only ever had two instances where, when you play with some of these country artists, you hit play and the track plays top to bottom, and if something happens in there, you're bailing on the tracks, and all of a sudden the song sounds completely different,
empty.
Right? So So launch a tune and the band's playing, and the first verse, at the beginning of the first verse goes by, and the artist hasn't started singing yet.
Oh no!
Oh my God! Kill the track, and the song just goes like, just the bottom falls out of it, because it's all basically running like a stereo pair out of whatever, and there's like synth bass and extra guitars and keyboards and percussion, and it's just all gone. So it happens. But that's funny. I wondered if we could talk a little bit about both your experiences with Max. Then I'm not sure that a lot of people know about Max and what exactly it does. Probably myself included. Really, I have an idea, but especially with its integration with Ableton, if you can maybe just talk about your experiences with that a little bit. Whoever wants to go.
Well, I'll go, because I don't know as much about it as Carson does. So I mostly use like specific plugins that like make life easier for me. Whether it's like this dude Ableton drummer has some MIDI plugins that like make run a roll-in pad a little bit easier, or the setlist app that helps running like backing tracks easier, or like the LFO shifter that just kind of moves LFO around if you want to do a filter sweep, it just kind of does that for you really quickly. But yeah, I haven't really messed with like building stuff. I've learned a little bit about it, but I haven't really done too much building of like plugins or effects or whatever with it.
But it's worth the money to you because it's expensive, right?
Definitely. Well, it came with, I have Ableton 10. I think it's integrated in Ableton 10 now.
Oh yeah, Max for Live is in there.
Yeah,
I think it's
you can get a cross grade thing too if you have like Live 10 or something. You get like a discount on the standalone Max.
Interesting.
Yeah,
good to know.
Yeah,
cool. So just kind of dropping stuff in plugins.
Yeah,
away you go.
Plugins. Exactly.
Cool. So then, Carson, I know you're actually kind of building stuff with it.
Yeah.
Visuals and everything.
Yeah. So I got into Max in my last year of McEwen, where I took a course called Apps and Music Tech 2 with Nico Arnez. And I don't know if they're offering that class anymore, but it was super cool. We, each week he would show us like a new thing that you can do in Max. And like he had like different challenges, like, we had to figure out how to do this in Max. Like, anyway, yeah, it was super cool. So we had like final projects in that class, and like we had to make something and present it kind of, to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So what I want to do was I want to make like invisible drum set that would use like OSC from like my phone, and then like a MIDI expression pedal or something. And so Nico kind of like steered me in the right track to figure out how to do this and how to like manipulate stuff that's already in our phones, to actually use it for something. So, and I didn't know anything hardly about like samples and stuff. So I just used like the native instrument sounds for like the kit, but it actually worked. So that was like super gratifying, because you can spend so much time in Max and like get nothing done, but recently, like in the last few months, I spent some time perusing YouTube, and I found a few channels by this guy called Dude837 or something like that, and he makes a bunch of stuff in Max. And so for the longest time I didn't know what I wanted to make, and so you don't really know where to start, and so you don't really have the desire to like finish anything. But I went to a jam session back in February in Chinatown, and there was this guitarist I met, and he lived in New York for a long time, and then he just moved here, and he had this instrument that he made. It was like a MIDI guitar, but it was like all these like, it had like some modular stuff in it too, and he made it or something. And I asked him, how he made it, and he said, he was into Max, and he built like this interface and everything. And so I was, and then he said he was doing kind of a show and tell thing at this modular store, like modular tech store called, what's it called? Perfect Circuit in Burbank. And so I went to that, and then he was demoing how he was playing this instrument that he made, and then it was affecting these visuals that I saw on the screen, and it was crazy. It was like really, really interesting what he was doing. And so I talked to him afterwards, and he said he was using this coding language called processing, and it's open source, so you can just download it and kind of learn it yourself if you have time to watch tutorials and all that. And so I realized, okay, I have a reason to like do something in Max now, because for me, I'm a drummer, so I want to find a way to connect drums somehow to somehow make visuals from those. And so I went about finding, so my housemate from CalArts, he's a guitarist, and he randomly gave me these little piezo mics, these little piezo trigger things, so cool. That he made. So I was like, okay. So I was kind of fooling around with that previously, and getting that to get a signal into Max or into Ableton or whatever. And so I found this. I used to have an electronic drum kit, and so I had this TD20 drum brain kind of in my closet. So my goal in Max was to make something that would take all the inputs from the different like hi-hat, snare, kick inputs from the drum brain and separate them into channels, because when you connect that into Ableton, it also goes to like channel 10, and so it's all you have to separate it, right? And so I just made like this kind of thing where if it gets a certain MIDI note, it routes it to like its own channel.
Right.
You know, and I just duplicated that like 12 times or 10 times or something. And then you scale the amplitude, scale the MIDI, you know, threshold and stuff. And yeah, so, and
Pretty detailed. It's pretty pretty cool.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's kind of a work in progress, but it's I'm starting to finally understand it a bit more, where I can, like, you know, make some things. Yeah, sometimes in Max especially, it's, you can do so much in there, but if you don't know what you want to do, it can just be like paralyzing, you know. But
I hear that. Yeah.
yeah,
I hear that.
yeah.
If you guys,
I've been there.
Being in the LA area, I'm sure he lives in New York. But you ever get a chance to see Zach Danziger do his thing?
I saw him play with Donnie McCaslin, and was it? Yeah, it was Donnie McCaslin, like a year ago. But I didn't. Thing, he wasn't doing his thing, no.
Yeah, because I think he's using like Max to do interactive video stuff when he's playing, and it's like video clips, and it's super trippy. So I just wondered if you maybe had a chance to sit down and pick his brain about that kind of stuff.
No, there was actually there's another drummer who went to CalArts just before me. His name is Jacob Richards, and I don't know if he uses Max or no, he does use Max. But he had this project called Battery, and it was a solo drum set thing, and basically, you know, he put triggers on his kit and stuff, and I think he used like a software called Chuck, which is, I think, is something that he does that you can learn at CalArts. It's just like, I don't know if it's free or not, but it's kind of like a text based thing. But yeah, you can search him on Instagram, and he was using it where it would like follow his kick pattern, and then it would like trigger like modular sounds and I don't know exactly how he did it, but that was kind of what piqued my interest. Like, wow, you can do more with triggers than what we normally do, which is, you know, usually just like replace snare sounds or layer stuff, you know.
Yeah, it can be a lot more interactive. Yeah, interesting. Very cool. So, you know, for anybody that wants to check it out, I think you know, Max, it's not Max MSP anymore. I think it's just Max, but definitely worth checking out. It's like it's a visual programming kind of language. It's very cool. Might have to get into it after this. See, I got a tax return. Maybe
nice.
Drop some money on that. Effa, I wanted to ask you about your sample packs that you've been working on for various people and companies and things. I think you just put one out on, what was it, the other day?
Yeah, I guess like a couple weeks ago, I put out one. So yeah, first week of quarantine, I was like probably thinking that it was going to be over in like 2 weeks, but it wasn't, obviously. But I kind of got bored. So, well, not really bored, but I was like, let's just try something. Kind of, my wife was like, kind of dared me to sample my whole house, and so I like went around the house and just recorded all the things that I thought sounded cool and could function either as a percussion instrument or a kick or a snare, and then I did that, and then also like wrote an article for this company called Soundfly. So it's kind of like a work project that turned into more, because I continued to sample after I'd submitted this article and made a full sample pack and started making beats with it, sent it to a bunch of friends that are producers, and they're like, oh, this is kind of cool. And so yeah, it's been kind of a cool, interesting project, just to find some new sounds, and the sounds are turned out pretty good. So I've been using them to make some stuff, and yeah, it's been a cool journey, because yeah, the first pack I made was just to sample my own kit, just to kind of like, as I was doing different recording sessions, kind of to say.
Yeah, I have that pack. Yeah.
Oh no, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like the best, like almost like the best of me recording my drums. This is like, oh, this sound was dope. Okay, let me just like chop it up and save it for later so I can send it to other people, or if someone they just want to kind of have some cool sounds to use that are different from the stock ones, that are like sounds that are really, really clean. They can use some shaker loops, percussion loops, drum set loops, just to start writing with, even if they don't use it for the final thing, just to kind of get things going.
Cool.
Yeah.
What was like, did you have to be really particular with what mic you used to sample things, and like what was the editing process like after you recorded it?
For the first one?
Yeah, just for either of them. Yeah.
Either of them? The first one was just kind of more like as I was going, I was just collecting samples, and then for like certain instruments, like the percussion stuff, I just sat down one day. I'm just doing all percussion and cymbals all day, doing cymbals. But the kicks and snares for the first pack were just kind of over time recording and just like hitting the kick a few times and just like figuring out which velocity sounded good as a
Right.
decent one shot, and then going in and then EQing it and maybe adding some saturation. I tried to make the first pack like super clean, so it's just like you can add more to it. And then the second pack, yeah, kind of went around the house just like with a microphone or like a phone recorder or something, and went in and then edited. Did a lot of editing and sound design to make certain things sound a certain way. So yeah, second one was a lot more involved with the sound design to make like it still sounds like I'm hitting a coffee table, but it's like sounds like a bass drum, the bass drum sound of the coffee table,
Cool.
or like beatboxing and it sounds like a hi-hat, or rubbing my hands together and it sounds like a shaker, versus just like hearing me rubbing my hands and it doesn't sound like anything. Yeah.
Right. That's really cool. And so the editing process for all of the maybe like the one shots and stuff like that, you're cutting everything from the beginning so you get the transient and everything. And like how much time did you have to put into like making sure everything was super clean, or did you not worry about it? Was it just kind of like the Aaron Sterling bucket thing? You're just like not to say that he didn't do that, but
yeah. I was pretty worried about it being really clean and just usable, because like I always hate when I get a sample and like there's like a huge space before it starts, or getting a loop and it's not actually loopable. So yeah, it definitely took a lot of time bouncing it and like researching what the sample rate for most sample packs are that you get off Splice or from That Sound or different companies. So yeah, I definitely did a lot of research to try to figure out how I wanted it to sound. And then when it was in my DAW, I was like recorded like 10-15 of the different sounds and just like found the right one. It's like this is the one that's gonna be the simple sound. This one is gonna be the snap or the couch hit, which kind of sounds ridiculous, but I recorded and re-recorded and bounced and then rebounced, sent them to people, resent them to the friends that I had kind of beta testing them, and they're like, "Wait, you did like 3 versions of this?" I'm like, "Yeah, kind of."
Kind of sad, but very cool.
It's like, but it turned out cool.
Right on. So kind of tying into that, you mentioned you've been watching a lot of Aaron Sterling videos and Dan Richard Bailey, and both of those guys are crazy. For anybody watching, Sterloid at Sterloid on Instagram, check that out. And is it Dr. Richard Bailey?
Yeah, I think
on
so,
Instagram. Yeah. Unreal. I bought the Sounds of Sterloid Volume 1 and 2.
They're great. Amazing.
So cool. It's just I think it's so funny how not technical he is about anything. It's awesome. Yeah. It's kind of funny. It's like almost like a jazzy approach to like recording. It's like, just whatever. It's like, it's not put tape on it, put more tape on it, put tape on the bottom and tape on the top, or like I don't even he's like, I don't even know what I'm doing. Whatever. Yeah. Like my head goes back on the and like my head goes forward on the E. It's like, wait, what? Yeah. He's so random, but he's amazing. Yeah. Oh, that no. Oh, yeah. Oh. Like doesn't even it's amazing. If you can, for anybody else watching, if you can afford the money, it's such a great resource for recording. I haven't seen any of Dan Richard Bailey stuff. The purchased stuff anyways. Yeah, they're good. I got both of them recently because he's had a sale for them. But yeah, they're good. The second batch he has like a sheet of like EQ curves, and then I kind of put them into my DAW and just have been using that as like a starting point template. So if I have to send stems to someone really quickly, it just kind of cuts. I use that as like a base to cut out bad frequency, so it sounds like drums, even if I'm just playing it back. And I just have to send a quick reference or just stems to someone who doesn't want me to saturate or EQ too heavily or compress anything. Right. Just clean it up a little bit and get it out the door. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah. So, I mean, what else have you kind of pulled from watching all of these videos? What have you kind of made your own? You know what I mean? Just like
just kind of like focusing on tuning and then not overthinking things, and then also just not overthinking things, and also just like paying attention to not believing the hype of some things. So like say like snare, having like massive snare wires on a snare or something, or like I use a lot of the pure sound snares, and I tried to put some on like a vintage snare, and then it just didn't work. And it's just like, okay, just like don't overthink things. Not everything has to be the hippest thing, or like if it sounds good, just don't mess with it too much.
Right.
And especially with Aaron Sterling, he just kind of does whatever. And he's like I was watching one of his videos this morning. He's like, sometimes I just try to use a kit that will definitely not work on a song just to see what happens. Like just being open to not having to do what you think's gonna happen, and just kind of try some stuff. You know, I've tried like using a tiny like 12-inch snare, tuned it low, and played it, and it sounded better than like using a deep snare, or using like the probably the fattest, the subbiest kick in my first sample pack is the 16-inch bass drum.
Really?
Like I was just like, what? Okay.
Crazy.
It's weird.
That's interesting that I've kind of been having that problem too. Not a problem, but getting over that thing where you like, you set some drums up and you're trying to make them sound like you hear them in your head, kind of thing, and watching the Aaron Sterling videos was definitely like, like you said, just set it up and it is going to be what it's going to be. And you can EQ it and compress it all you want, trying to sculpt it to be what you're hearing in your head. But sometimes you just have to go with it,
Yeah.
I'd imagine it'd be the temptation to like tweak things endlessly would be super, strong, especially when you're making like a sample pack that you're putting out.
Yeah.
You must have lived that.
Oh yeah, like my wife was like, yeah, you're like having stress dreams about the snaps not sounding good, because I tried to record them and I was too close to the mic, so the transient peaked up really big and it was like all weird. And then I realized if I went back, it would sound better. But it's just like, I was like freaking out. It was like ridiculous.
Give me anxiety just thinking about it.
Yeah, it was nuts. But yeah, definitely watching Aaron Sterling kind of, made me like relax on like, oh, okay, controlling everything. Or even his I think one of his coolest sounding kits is like this Japanese Mercury kit that he probably paid $300 for. And he took it on tour with John Mayer, and it's just like an old, cheap, made in Japan kit. And it kind of inspired me. So I got one for $200, and I was like, let's see if this actually works. Sounds unreal. Like $200 kit, got a $50 snare drum to match it. Sounds crazy. And sent it to people, and like, I didn't tell them it was like my cheapest snare drum, and I didn't use like a $300 Yamaha snare drum. And they're like, this is amazing snare drum. What's this snare drum? Or what's this kick? Or what do you use? It's like the cheapest stuff I own.
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. If it sounds good, it sounds good.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That's really cool, man.
Nowadays, I feel like most people have like home studio setups, and like we have the time and the ability to make our gear sound better, Yeah. And there isn't as much like ego involved of like bringing your stuff to a studio and then like people seeing what you use. But, now we can, you can tweak things and like find a way to make your own stuff work nicely.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Speaking of that, we had a question here. I'm not sure if Dennis is still here. He's asking about getting started with Ableton. If you guys have entry-level tutorials or courses.
There's some stuff on sweetwater.com. There's like a couple articles where they talk about running stuff, and then they link to you obviously to all the gear that you could buy to run it. But there's some pretty decent Sweetwater courses for running backing tracks.
Yeah. Do you teach Ableton, right?
I do.
At MI? Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. So hey, you can take lessons from Effa.
That too, yeah.
Also, if you live in Calgary, Edmonton, and you have your public library card, you can use lynda.com.
Yeah.
And there's lots of like full, huge, long tutorials and videos and stuff. That can help quite a bit. But I think, just kind of diving in and mucking around with stuff is a really good way to just kind of get your feet wet too. connect a mic and start recording stuff and
Yeah.
messing around with it.
Are there
Way
are there any
ugly.
are there any like miking tricks that you guys have been using that are just kind of blew your mind recently, or just like unorthodox that you're like, okay, this is cool. This is maybe not your secret weapon, but just like a cool thing that you never thought of doing that you're like, oh, cool. This is interesting.
Yeah. I guess I've always been a fan of the heart mic or the Verst mic, the mic that you put right over the kick drum,
Okay, yeah.
equidistant from the kick drum and toms and snare and stuff.
I dig that.
But I've seen the video before a couple of years ago, and I went back and rewatched it. And it's this German producer that's like worked with the Pixies and stuff like that, and he talks about what he does to that mic to make things like weird and sound super vibey. And he's like, he'll just absolutely crush it with a compressor, but then gate it and then like distort it, and it just does this weird pumping thing, and that's been kind of cool. And then also, I'm gonna move this way. That thing right there,
the phone mic. Yeah, I just started getting on that. That's the vibe. Had a friend make me 2 of those.
Oh yeah.
So I've used them on like horns and vocals. And
what mic is that?
This one. There's a guy in like Arkansas or something that makes this. It was like $100 Canadian.
Oh yeah, wow.
But it's just
what's it called?
A phone mic. It's just an old phone handle, and they just wire it up to. I think they might put a different. Sometimes they put a different microphone in the. This one's in the earpiece. It's in the top of it, but it's got a little volume slider, and it sounds really crazy.
Yeah,
really wild.
Cool.
Just really, really compressed and crunchy, and there's a lot of high, mid, no bottom end. It's just kind of blend it in, or just use it on its own. I don't know what else. I don't know. I've been kind of. I bought a couple other microphones. I bought like a Bayer Dynamic M88 for the kick drum.
Okay,
that's really, really cool. I think Blair Cinta. Cinta's out in LA. He I think he uses one of those on kick drum quite often, and it's different,
Yeah.
A little bit more MIDI, less hype than like I don't know, I've got like a D6 and a Beta 52, and they're both like rock.
They're so carved out, and pointy. Yeah.
I mean, great for a lot of stuff, great for floor toms, but
great on floor toms. The kick mic on floor tom. Whoo.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. I saw somebody Ash Schoen might have been using like a D112 on his side snare too, like the really deep tune side snare.
Sick.
Yeah, that's really great. But other than that, I mean, most of the stuff I do out here is pretty straight up, kind of clean sounds, nothing too wild. But we'll see. Keep stumbling.
Might change.
Yeah, I'll see if I can maybe send you that Verst mic video, because it's really cool. He put out a little booklet about doing home recordings and stuff too, and in like small rooms, and where to put the drums and the other instruments and how to process things, and it's very strange and kind of out of the box, and I'll see if I can dig that up. But I don't know. What about you guys? Carson, you got any weirdness?
I don't know. I'm kind of probably in the middle of the road in terms of recording. Like my setup on my kit, I have a stereo pair of 414s, and then D112 on the kick, and then just a 57 on the snare. So just working with that, and 414s are pretty good. They can. I hear their, like, from what I hear, they sound like they're pretty like a natural sound, and same with the D112. I only have an interface with like 4 inputs, so if I want to get more, I gotta like upgrade to something else. But it's been working pretty well so far.
We talked about that on one of the other episodes a few weeks ago. Getting started recording drums, you don't need 30 channels, 30 inputs, and you don't have to mic everything to get really good drum sounds. I mean,
it's true.
Led Zeppelin, I mean, they recorded those drum tracks with 3 microphones. Glenn Jones,
it's true.
Kick drum mic, and still probably some of the best drum sounds ever. But man, what about you, F? Anything else weird? Any craziness?
Nothing too crazy, but yeah, definitely the phone mic was a game changer. Definitely have tried to like record it just like as an overhead and just have a kick mic and then have the phone mic, which is kind of crunchy. More recently, I've tried putting like a ribbon mic just kind of at the edge of the bass drum, kind of facing, so like kind of how you'd angle the worst mic, but just back, so it's at the edge of the rim of the bass drum.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool, and it's like kind of gets the toms and the snare and the kick, and it's like pretty natural, a bit more mellow than like having it pointing at the rim of the snare or pointing at the shell of the snare drum. So yeah, it's cool. I found it was like easy. It was like not easy to blend in and still really full as like a kind of a close room mic.
Interesting, and no problems with like ride cymbal overpowering
no,
anything.
It's totally cool. Yeah.
I guess the figure of 8, you can kind of get the cymbal in the null a little bit, but that's interesting. I smell a new ribbon mic.
Yeah, you should try. You should try. It's probably like similar position to where you have your phone mic, just kind of like off, like at an angle, pointing at the snare, but like a little further back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably
about there.
Closer, but
yeah.
Cool. Neat. Well, that's great. I mean, we got all the time in the world to try stuff right now. So
for real, yeah, true, definitely try some stuff out.
Yeah. Let's see if I wanted to talk about anything else here. I think this has been a great talk. I think people will get a lot out of this. There's a lot to kind of talk about and to kind of delve into a little bit. You know, people can go check out Max and Ableton and you know, check out your guys' playing. Everybody watching, got to go check these guys out. Your Instagram is Effa Jimmy, right?
It's Effa Junior Music.
Effa Junior Music.
Yeah. Okay. EFA JR Music.
Cool. And Carson, yours is?
Carson _ on drums.
Cool. Right on. Yeah. Go check these guys out. See what they're up to. Always entertaining. I think this is a good place to end it. Don't need to, you know, just I can let you guys go and you can do your thing and mess around with microphones. And thanks a lot for agreeing to be on.
Yeah, my pleasure. This is fun.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Hope to maybe have, if the whole pandemic thing goes on for a long time, I'll probably get you on for a round 2 and see what you're up to down the road. But
cool.
For now, thanks again. And
yeah,
I'm sure I'll be talking to you guys sometime in the future.
Awesome.
Sounds good.
Cool. See you guys.
All right, see you.
I'm going to drop you and I'm going to finish my thing here. So,
okay. All right, bye.
Take care.
All right. So that's it for this week. Thanks to Carson and Effa for joining from California. Going to kind of working on lining some stuff up for next week. Next week might be a break again, though. There's some stuff going on around here that's kind of taking up a lot of my time. But I am working on a few guests that will probably be one-on-one interviews. But that remains to be seen. I'll keep everybody posted. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you the next time.